Next question is from Marian Rakosi.
Yesterday I marched alongside thousands of protesters at one of the 32 March in March events. And I'm here tonight as a young early childhood educator, really honestly worried about our nation's future. My question is for Sussan Ley as the Minister in charge of early childhood education. Why won't you give back promised pay rises to my fellow 60,000 educators and be a strong advocate for quality reforms?
Thank you, Marian. It's nice to see you in the flesh. I see you on Twitter all the time. Thank you for your passion for an industry that you care so much about. The important thing is that I do understand that quality is there. Quality is a journey that we're on, and educators deserve professional wages, as you say. But the previous government put a policy in place which was $300 million of borrowed money to give pay rises for just 2 years to just 15% of the sector in total, and I think that's extremely unfair.
Well, you give more than that. You actually call it a childcare union slush fund.
A union, I have, because the independent inquiry that we organised after coming into government found exactly that. This is a fund, Tony, that was exhausted in just 13 hours because it was so insufficient. But when I was sworn in as minister, the previous minister, the member for Adelaide, and Mark knows he's part of the Union United Voice, so he may have something to say in a moment, had not even had the decency to tell educators and centres to stop applying for this money because it was long gone. Because every time an application was made, a union EBA was created and more union memberships were signed up. But that doesn't mean, Marian, that I don't believe that you have a strong case. My point was, instead of running this campaign, this case should have gone to the Fair Work Commission, the independent umpire. And 2 years ago, when I met your union, I said, understand the case you're doing, which involves a lot of new members for your union, but why aren't you taking it to the Fair Work Commission? And in fact, it has gone there now, and it will be heard. And at the end of that process, there's a strong expectation, I'm sure that you have, that if you make the case, professional wages will be in place and they will be sustainable.
Okay, a question had a hand up. I'll hear from her and then I'd like to hear from the opposition.
Yes, so you've just said that you do believe it's unfair and that it will run its course through the Fair Work Commission. However, in The Australian, there was a loud and clear heading saying the coalition resists equal pay claim. So I want to clarify with you now, what was that about?
The Fair Work Commission hearing is at its early framework and legislative stage. So no proposal has been made by the Commonwealth about the merits of the case. We are literally talking about the legal framework. So the interpretation that you have made and you may have read is not correct. So my point is to you that the Fair Work Commission, we have always said, is the body to determine who should get the wage case. And do you really think it's fair that only 15% of your sector would have been awarded a wage case for just 2 years and then lost it all without a proper sustainable increase for everybody? And just coincidentally that 15% were encouraged to sign up to the union.
I'm going to interrupt.
That's not fair.
I want to hear from the other side of the argument. In government, you made this money available, but the point was well made. I mean, you couldn't pay for it.
Well, that's not right. It was in the budget. I mean,
well, hang on. The budget was so deeply. Just go back to the point that I was just trying to make, and which you've just heard from the government. The budget was so deeply in deficit by the time you handed it over to the new government that they had to find savings.
This is the problem we have here. Whenever there's a program or a line of spending this government doesn't like, they say, "Oh, it's borrowed money." And then at the same time, instead of an emissions trading scheme, Tony Abbott will find $5 billion a year to pay polluters. He'll find $5.5 billion to pay parental leave, which is more than the entire childcare budget every year that Sussan has to spend. This has been an issue for more than 20 years. For more than 20 years, childcare workers or educators have been subsidising high-quality, affordable childcare in this country through accepting low wages. And it's unfair, it's unsustainable. The decision we took last year was never going to fix things overnight. It was it's $300 million. It was to start a process of lifting wages in this sector. I'm glad Sussan agrees that they're too lowly paid. This is not just unfair. We are not going to have the number of qualified educators that we need for our 0 to 5-year-olds if we don't fix this. And
is it true what the Minister said, that the pay rise was restricted to 15% of the workers?
Well, there was limited money, as Sussan says, there was limited money, as there was in the aged care sector, which the government also tore down, to start a process of lifting wages. You cannot just go to the Fair Work Commission now, click your fingers and deal with an entire sector in the way you could 25 years ago.
So 15% is correct, is it?
You have to do it through enterprise bargaining and start a market-based process.
Are you saying that your own Fair Work Commission is not cut out for the job?
Of course it is, but then what we need to do then is start to flow it through. Look, there have been these arguments for years and years. Through the 11 years of the Howard government, you know, there have been arguments about whether you can lift childcare workers' wages by taking a case to the Industrial Commission, which is what we would have done and did 25 years ago. The system of enterprise bargaining that was introduced almost a quarter of a century ago simply disadvantages workers like childcare workers, aged care workers, service sector workers generally. We tried to find a way to deal with a problem that's been in the too hard basket for 20 years because, frankly, it's beyond time that early childhood educators got a fair wage for the incredibly important work.
It was incredibly unfair. It was an incredibly unfair process, and just coincidentally, everyone who won under that process was a union member.
Okay, hold on. I'm just going to quickly go back to our questioner.
You do not have to be a union member to be covered by the agreement.
Excuse me, sorry.
Except that nobody told everyone.
Hold on, because we've got a lot of topics to get through. I'll just quickly go back and give the last word to the questioner who had a hand up again. Sorry.
Lastly, I just wanted to say, with so many issues, early childhood education being one of them, it seems like the current government immediately goes to Labor's policies or anything they've done in the past. I want to focus on now and the future. So what will be your legacy on early childhood, Sussan?
The Productivity Commission that is currently taking hearings and about to produce a draft report in July and a final one in October will set brave new policy parameters for the future. So childcare will not look the way it does now, and that's a very big once-in-a-generation approach that we're taking, and it's absolutely focused on the future.